Hi, my name is Navi and this is the explanation video for the Gamepad input and deadzone fix. This will be a two-part video. The first part will be the explanation of what is being fixed through my pack compared to how the Unreal Engine normally works, and the second video will be showing how to set it up. So getting right into it, let's talk about the input. Okay, so here is the shape. Here are the two shapes of the one on the left being the shape that the Unreal Engine has normally. This is what, if you were to push the thumbstick out, forward, out to its maximum in any direction, and then do a circle. This rounded edge square is what the Unreal Engine would read that as in terms of the values coming out. On the right is the actual shape of what it should be, because it's just a circle. It's a circular hole on the gamepad, and the outputs should read as a circle. So you might be wondering, okay, this is cool and all, why do I care? You care because, except for the cardinal directions being, left, right, up, and down, all of the values, between those directions are going to be distorted. They're not going to be the proper amount that they should be by if this was reading things properly as a circle. The values as you go out to the edges will be sort of pushed out, and it won't be receiving a proper value. For some games, you really don't care. 2D games, you're probably fine with this. You don't need to bother. But for 3D games, especially first-person shooter games, where you're using a gamepad, you're gonna run into you might not run into issues, but you're not going to be able to get the accuracy that you really want to have, especially if you're going to have it be any sort of, precision aiming or competitive or even just nicely controllable. Having a distortion in how you control your character, people are going to feel it, and it's not going to feel good. This takes care of that. This pack maps the input shape to the proper circle instead of the rounded edge square. Takes care of all the issues of having proper inputs and that. So, alright, let's go to the second part, talking about the deadzone. Oh my goodness, this is the fun part. Alright, so on the left is the deadzone that Unreal Engine 4 has currently. On the right is what my implementation of this deadzone fix will put out. So let's just go over what the deadzone in Unreal Engine 4 is looking at. What it is, so here's the deadzone for the y-axis, this is the deadzone for the x-axis. X-axis because, going left and right, the y-axis is going up and down. Okay, so the problem with this way, this is an axial deadzone. The problem with doing it this way is because until you get your thumbstick out of anywhere in this red area, you're not having full control over your character. If you have it out of this, if you push it enough to the right or enough to the left to be out of this X deadzone, you aren't necessarily going to have full control of your character until you get it out of this Y deadzone. If you push to the right, even if you push a little up or a little down, it's always going to view it as pushing pretty much straight right until you get out of this Y deadzone, uh, and then it will begin to read your input as something other than just going straight right. Now, this can be really, really obnoxious for having actual nice motor control for any third-person character or any first-person character even, because if you want to go a little bit off center of right, you won't have that option. And the bigger the dead zone is, the bigger, the less full control area you're gonna have. This area here is all that you have in terms of what you can control fully. That's how the normal dead zone works in Unreal Engine 4. In my implementation, this is the dead zone that you have to work with. Everywhere that is not red, you have full control over your character. So it looks like a proper dead zone would look if you imagined what a dead zone is. This is the very simple, kind of lazy way to do it. This is the proper way to do it. This is the way that you can probably be expecting most good fancy games are having their dead zones are. My goodness, please, words. The circular dead zone on the right is the way that professionals really should do it. Don't know why they didn't do it this way, but here it is now. And yeah, so that's the explanation portion. Man, I am so eloquent in speaking. All right, let's go to setting things up. So here's the project. So in the project, I've already got the left and right thumbstick all set up in a third-person character. For the actual content that is new, you can go into Content, Gamepad Thumbstick Fix, into Blueprint, into Utility, and here are the new nodes that are new to the project. Apparently someone is playing Gary's mod. I really should have closed that. The UI portion also in this pack is under UI, Utility, and then here are the various parts. The parts that you're going to want to mess around with are in input visualizers, the left and the right. You can sort of customize stuff in there, but you don't really need to worry about that for now. So let's go to the third-person blueprint, and third-person character, and let's see how I put this together, and let's recreate it. Come on, computer, open. Alright, here we go. So there are a couple components to this. There is the right thumbstick setup. There is the left thumbstick setup. There is the UI initialization part, basically the stuff that doesn't change as you play, and the stuff the updating tick event of the UI stuff, the stuff that is showing where your thumbstick actually is. Let's set up the if you just want the change and you don't want to see what it's doing, you don't need this. This is just to help you see what's going on in case you want to change things or to use it for other things. Alright, so let's get into the left thumbstick first. So it's a little different than what we saw normally. So let's go about recreating this. So the new parts that we want to bother with. So actually, let's grab this and this. And let's unplug these, and let's drag them over. All right, so we've got the regular input axis move forward and input axis move right. Those are just the same as normal. we can take the get control rotation, get break rotator, make rotator, and these two as well, and we can just copy them right over. These are standard on the in the regular setup that we don't really need to change. Something new that we want is we want to right click and turn this axis value into a variable. I've already done this, and I've called the move forward to be the left thumb Y, and a little saying forward just for reference. And we also want to promote variable here on the move right, and I call that left thumb X right. And then to get to the new node, we want help. Type in helper, and then the one that we want is get corrected input. This is what fixes the input to be the proper shape of the circle, as well as setting up the dead zone. So for this, we want to put the Y into the Y and the X into the X. And then we want to right click this and we promote this to a variable. I've already done so. Again, also with this, promote that to a variable. Grab these two over here, copy them. Alright, we've got our dead zone low variable, and we've got our dead zone high variable. As we're talking about the dead zones, we want to go up to edit, project settings, wait for it to load. Alright, so up in the search bar, type in dead zone, and normally the left X, left Y, right X, and right Y would all have a value of 0.25. We want to change those to a value of 0 because we're not going to be using the game engine's implementation of a dead zone. We're going to be using our own. If you're not using the if you're not changing a certain thumbstick and you want to keep it as is, you would leave these values as is, but we're changing both the left and the right thumbsticks, so we're going to have all of these be 0. Alright, so just close out that after you've changed it. Then we're going to grab our add movement inputs that are the standard part of the movement thing, movement setup. Alright, so, and we want to connect this to there and this to there. As normal, connect it up, connect it up. Now we have it pass on through the X, and we pass on through the Y. Let me just, so, in our, going back to the dead zone talk, because the standard is 0.25 in the project settings, I just go ahead and call this a 0.25 for the low, which means that that is the size of the dead zone for the low range, and the high range. Well, I'll explain the low range and the high range in a minute. It'll make sense with the UI. Actually, we can just show that off right now, so that I can explain it right now. Alright, turn on my controller, pressing play. Alright, so as you can see in the top left hand corner, this is my thumbstick, the little red, oh, hold on, how do I show my, nope, my goodness. Okay, okay, Shift F1 for the mouse. Okay, so, oh, I can't move around with that. Alright, so, up here, you can see a little green dot. In a moment, you can see a red dot as well. The red dot is where the actual thumbstick input is coming from. The green dot is the corrected thumbstick input. If you can see the little black, um, the little black circle here, that is the size of our dead zone. That is the 0.25 that is set up. And up here, this not the outermost white circle, but the inner white circle, that is the maximum dead zone. That means that when the actual position of the thumbstick reaches that line, it's going to consider it to be at the outmost. For the most part, you don't need to bother having the high dead zone, the dead zone high, to be any lower than 1. It's just for fringe cases, for if you want to have certain. I can't even think of why you would want it, but it's there. You can change it if you want. So let's see. So you can see the little red dot moving inside the dead zone, green dot, the corrected input, not doing anything. We begin to put it outside the dead zone, and the green dot moves, and our character moves. And we get to the first white line, and it reaches the outer white line, meaning it's getting a maximum value. And if I take it to the maximum, you can see that it sort of traces the shape of that box with rounded corners. That is what I was talking about earlier. That's the thing that we don't want. But the green corrected input is showing that we are only getting the values that we do want. Okay, and you can see on the right, it is also set up so if I look up to the right, it's showing up to the right, down to the left, down to the left. So that's what it looks like set up on the right hand side as well. Alright, back to our explanation. Enough of this hoo-ha. Alright, so we've got the left thumbstick set up. I think, okay, I don't think I've missed any part of this. Alright, let's go to the right thumbstick. It's going to be pretty much the same. We're going to be adding 2 new variables from the axis values because we want to be able to get to them later. We take, what is normal from this? Okay, so from here onwards, this is normal. So normally it would just go, axis value straight to here, straight to here. Axis value straight to here, straight to here. Instead, we added the correct input, again with the dead zone low and dead zone high, and we output the Y and we output the X. So it's not much of a different setup than the Y. It's than the left thumbstick, and this is the right thumbstick. So pretty simple setup. And for the setting up the UI, again, it's pretty simple. It's not that complicated. Alright, so we've got our begin play, and then, alright, so let's just drag this up here, and we'll just recreate it. Alright, so we want to do both the left and the right. If you only want to do one thumbstick, you don't need to do a sequence, but I want to do both, and I like using sequences because they're cool. Alright, so we want to say construct, if I can see what I'm saying. typing. Construct object from class. We want to look around in the classes for the screen input visualizer, and we're going to set up the left one first. And we want to take this outer part and look up self and get a reference to self and set that like that. And we want to right click this return value and promote it to a variable. Again, I've already done this. We want to, I've called this the left input visualizer, words. We want to set that, and then we're going to drag off, and then we're going to add to viewport. And as adding to viewport, you can either drag from here, or I just like to drag from there. We're adding this UI element to the viewport, and so we want to get a reference to this left input visualizer. And we're going to look over here in the variables, and here it is right here. So we're going to drag and get input visualizer, and we're going to drag off of this, and we're going to look up deadzone, and we're going to set deadzone low, as well as we're going to set deadzone high, and we are going to set max, the outer limit. When I was showing you the left thumbstick, when it had the outer white circle and the inner white circle, the max would be the outer white circle, and that one doesn't really move. So we're going to grab our various variables, the left deadzone low. We're going to get that. We're going to plug that in right there. Oh, we're going to plug all these in first. We're going to get our left deadzone high. We're going to get that. Plug that in. We're going to right click, promote to variable for left deadzone max. Again, I've already done this. I'm going to drag and drop that. I'm going to plug that in. This can just be set to 1. Actually, please do just set this to 1, because that's how it works. It might work other ways. It might work if you have it set differently, but it won't be accurate anymore. So keep that at 1. Again, the deadzone high you can usually keep at 1, and the deadzone low, 25 is the standard. This is actually another good thing about having this type of deadzone set up, is that for older controllers that can have a little more wiggle room as they're resting, if you increase the size of the deadzone low, that means that you aren't going to have your character accidentally move around when you don't want them to, because it didn't snap back to the center quite as nicely as you wanted it to. Anyway, ignoring that, that is the first part of setting up the come on, words, don't fail me now. The non-moving UI part. For the visualizer of the right thumbstick, you would just do the exact same, set it up the same, except you would use the right deadzone low, right deadzone high, and right deadzone max. Oh, speaking of which, these are right deadzone low and right deadzone high compared to left deadzone low and left deadzone high. You could probably have them use the same values if you want, just to not have to deal with so many variables. I always like having as many variables as necessary to make certain that I can tweak things without accidentally tweaking other things. So these are the left dead zone things you're going to need to make right dead zone ones. But pretty easy. Just do the same setup for the same side. Alright, so let's connect that back to there. And now for the event tick stuff. Alright, so for the left thumbstick. Oh my goodness. Alright, so let's drag this down a bit so I can sort of put it together again for you guys. So we've got our event tick. We've got our sequence. Then we want to grab our left input visualizer because we're going to need to reference that again. We want to drag off of that and type in set actual and hook that up. And then we want to, that is the actual position of the thumbstick compared to the corrected. Then we're going to drag off of the visualizer again, type in corrected, and that is the corrected position. So this is the red dot, this is the green dot. Drag off one more time and type in strength. This strength is a value of 0 to 1 of how far off center you are pushing the thumbstick when it gets out of the dead zone. So it's hard to explain. It's useful if you find yourself needing it because it's kind of hard to get on your own. If you need it and you don't have it, you can't really find much else that can fix that problem for it. If you don't need it, congratulations, you don't know that level of heartache. Alright, so we want to get the values to plug into these. So what are we going to do? We're going to take the left thumbstick Y. We're going to get that. We're going to get the left thumbstick X. We're going to get that. We got those values earlier. We want to use them again. Let's just put them back here. Then we're going to drag off of that and make vector 2D. And we're going to connect the Y to that. Move that back a little bit. And we're going to set that to be the position. So we've got those values, and now we're going to want to grab the other values that we were working with the left thumbstick. We're going to get the dead zone low, and we're going to get the dead zone high. And then we're going to drag that off, type in corrected, get corrected input, drag in the X, drag in the Y, drag in the low, drag in the high. Going to make another vector 2D. Going to connect the X and Y to it, and we're going to set that to the corrected position. And then for the third one, we're going to look up helper. And then we're going to get the strength node. Again, do these, drag the inputs to where they need to be. Not drag, there we go. Alright, then we're going to connect that to the strength, and we're good. We've got the left thumbstick setup, both in actuality and for the visualizer, the UI. For the right thumbstick, it's the exact same setup, except I'm not entirely certain why it does this. It just does. When you have it set up to have the when you have it set up here, it's all set up correctly. You push up to the right, it looks up to the right. You push down to the left, it looks down to the left. If you wanted to invert the controls, you would add, nope. You would insert here times a float, and you would have it be multiplied by -1. And that would make it so that if you looked up and to the right, it would actually go down and to the right. I can't remember what types of games use that, but there are some. Anyway, that's if you don't like the regular way of having it. That's the inverted look. That's the inverted camera. For having it display, however, for some reason you need to invert the values on the UI. So it's all set up the same, except for when you are plugging in the Y value into the vector 2D for the actual position and the corrected input for the corrected position. You're going to have that, accurately represent where your thumbstick is. You're going to want to, drag off, multiply, float by float. You're going to want to multiply it by -1, and then drag that into the Y of the make vector 2D, and into the Y of the get corrected input, and that will make it so that your did I just delete something I didn't want to delete? No, okay. That will make it so that the UI will show up appropriately. It will work just like you expect it to work. So let me just disconnect this here. So reconnect my event tick, and that is how it's all set up. It's fair. It's pretty easy. You don't need to do anything fancy. And again, I'll show you what it looks like when you're all done. Oh, actually, hold on. Want to make certain I don't forget stuff. So when you're constructing the screen when you're constructing an object, for the left side you want to say screen input visualizer left, and for the right side you want to make certain that you select the visualizer right. I've made the mistake of not doing that, and I could not figure out what I was doing wrong for ages, but just make certain you don't put two of the same. Anyway, so again, showing what it looks like when you're all done. Here's the right thumbstick. As you can see, the corrected input and the actual input. And again, it goes out of bounds in sort of this rounded edge square shape. And that is not correct, but you've got the correct values now. And the thumbstick on the left, again, you've got nice, smooth, corrected values. You have full control. If you want to walk straight to the right, you can. If you want to walk to a little bit, I don't have enough room to run. If you want to walk a little bit up to the left, here, let me show you. You have full control over all of the nuances of your movement, and the same goes for the thumbstick on the right. So there we go. That's all I've got to say. That was a lot of talking. I hope you know everything you need to know, and you know how to set it up now. If you were on the edge of getting this or not, I hope you decide to get it, because there's really only a few games that won't hugely benefit from having this setup, and those are primarily 2D games, and even then, it's just best to have more precise control rather than less control that is distorted. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the pack and you make great games with it. Thank you.